They lost 5 a while ago. They lost 13. Now they lose 40. What's it going to be without Henrik Zetterberg in Detroit? I know it's going to look weird. Not to see the nameplate, not to see the number. What's it going to be like, and what does that mean for the Red Wings?
Well, I'm going to do a small rant here. You're not aware of this, but this shouldn't come as a surprise because 2 years ago, Henrik Zetterberg told Aftonbladet, the Swedish newspaper, that he was going to retire in the summer of 2018. Maybe it was last year. But announced, and then said, of course, we did the contract this way to fool the system. So we got a trade. Well, this player here, obviously, because cap hit goes away.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is one of those back-driving, wonky 20-year deals, like I'm exaggerating, but obviously where the money goes from serious money in the first couple of years to $1 million a year on the back end. Player announced some time ago he intended to retire. He retires. They've got medical opinions. I don't want Kenny Holland calling me. They've got medical opinions that say that he shouldn't play. Mm-hmm. And a player that's played that long and played that hard, you're always going to be able to find a reason he shouldn't play. But that doesn't mean he can't play. And this is the last chapter. Marian Hossa also traded to Phoenix. Mm-hmm. But the Studer and Parise contracts are like this. They continue for some time yet. But it would be a nice when the last of these contracts flushes out of the system and teams that cheated the salary cap are no longer rewarded.
And here's, what's scary is if one of these guys are traded. Like here, you've got Luongo in Florida, who goes down to $1 million a year, made $100+ million in his career, I suspect. You've got Weber in Montreal, who goes down. So if they retire before these contracts expire, the cap hit goes back to Vancouver and to Nashville.
Yeah, the cap recapture,
and it's frightening.
It's vicious.
So you're Nashville and you're a cup contender, and Weber decides he has to retire because he's making $1 million a year, or Luongo. I mean, what does that do to the team?
Why would you retire though? Like, why would you go through the?
Well, you retire because you're making $8 million, and all of a sudden you're going to play for $1 million.
No, I get it, but I mean, if you're still injured and you can't play, why officially? The Weber contract could cripple Nashville.
Sure,
if he retires, because the cap recapture goes back to Nashville, and all of a sudden David Orell's got to trade everybody.
And they'll find a medical condition that warrants his stepping away from the game. And I say that those contracts infuriated me. I never did one. And then the league, who had vowed to punish these contracts, gave away 2 free buyouts, 2 compliance buyouts to end the CBA, to end the contract negotiations. But they'll find it legitimately. A player plays as long and hard as Luongo or Shea, they're going to find something that justifies their walking away. And again, teams get rewarded for doing the wrong thing. It's not right.
So it'll be real interesting. How many guys have started their contract at $8 million? End up at $1 million. And how many finish how many play?
The first one,
I don't know the answer.
I think the first one was Mika Kiprasov. I think that was.
Oh, I thought it was Timonen.
Timonen before Kiprasov?
We'd have to check.
And did he finish it out?
No, he didn't. No, he didn't play that final season.
Not many of them do, I find.
Yeah.
Anyway.
To the other question.
You're talking about a great player retiring. This is a guy that's really an important player, had success on a team, clear leadership role as well, international resume strong. It's sad news. It's bad news when a player of that caliber retires.
And what a career for a 7th round pick.
Sure.
And that was the year Nashville came in the league. He was drafted in the 7th round, and hard to believe. And Dad's a 3rd round pick. I mean, Håkan Andersson and that for the Red Wings to pick up Zetterberg and Dad's where they drafted them. And this is when people were.
Lidstrom too.
Yeah, Lidstrom was earlier, but I'm not sure what round Nick went.
Second or third.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, Mike Sillinger was our 1st round pick the year that Nick Lidstrom was.
I think you guys were scouting Pear Juice, and I think someone came across. Was it you guys were looking at Juice, and you ended up saying, "Those two guys pretty good."
I'll never forget Brian Murray phoning me. Brian Murray went over to watch to see Nick in Sweden. And Brian Murray phoned me at about 1 a.m. He said, Doug, we got a guy here that's better than Al McGinnis. Now, Al McGinnis was a hell of a player in the NHL. I said, Brian, have another beer. I'll talk to you in the morning. In other words, you're nuts.
Yeah.
Nick Lidstrom came over, never had a bad shift. I was with him 5 years in Detroit, never had a bad shift. He was that good. And I mean, I don't know where Kenny and Hawken drafted him, because it was Kenny Holland that drafted him.
You guys are real smart. I mean, you put him with Brad McCrimmon right off the hop.
Right off the
That
hop.
was a
But-
sound move.
Yeah, it was a good move. But the funny thing was, we had some scouts on our staff that they wouldn't let certain scouts on our staff go and see him because they knew they would hate him because he was a small guy, and a couple of scouts would have said not it. And this guy was an important scout in the Red Wings, and they used to take him to other games and not let him see Lidstrom because they were scared he would have nixed him. And they wanted desperately. Kenny and Hawken desperately wanted to draft him. So anyway, it's pretty funny.
Was there one, Brian, for you that you said, you know what, we stole one late in the draft here? Like, is there one late pick that you look at and you say, yeah, we got one?
Bure. I mean, it was Pat's draft, but we took him in the 6th round. There was a big debate over whether he was eligible. If he had played 10 games that year for Central Army, he would have been eligible. The Russians showed that he played 9. Mike Penny, our chief scout in Vancouver at the time, got the paperwork and demonstrated that he had played 2 additional games in St. Petersburg that year. The Russians called them friendlies, but we felt they should count as league games.
Yeah, I remember
So we
that.
took him in the 6th round. Everyone rushed the stage and went nuts on Mr. Gregory, screaming and yelling, cursing at me, cursing at Pat.
I was one of them.
It was pretty risky to curse at Pat.
I see where...
I never cursed a Pat.
Because I think Detroit, at the table, what I was told from someone there, Detroit was looking at taking him as well, because they had taken Fedorov, and I think they were looking at, hey, you know what? We got one, let's get 2.
Well, the best part, if you want to know there is honor among thieves, is we were in the same division with the Edmonton Oilers. The league took a year to award him to us. In fact, it was the night before the draft in Vancouver in 1990. We had 2 first-round picks here. We took Nedved and Antosky. And the night before, Mr. O'Neill came down to our room and said to Pat, Mr. Ziegler wants to see you. And so I'm like, said, Pat, don't take no for an answer. Don't take no for an answer. After about 20 seconds, there's another knock at the door, and Mr. O'Neill comes back, Brian O'Neill, and said, Burke, you better come too. So we go up and they handed us the sheet that said we're awarding Pavel Bure to, but it was quite a thing. You remember the stir it caused, and
I was working for Detroit at the time.
Glenn Sather, during that year, sent a letter to the NHL saying, by the way, we have the same information on Pavel Bure, and we think that claim should stand.